Hello there, my name is Dan, and over the last few years I've been working on a partial self-sufficiency project here in Essex, UK. The main purpose of my channel is to show people how they can do the same if indeed they wish to. I've linked some videos down below that you may find interesting, and please feel free to like, share and subscribe so that you are notified of any new videos that I put up. This video is going to be packed full of information, so make sure you stay tuned to the end and hopefully you will learn a lot from this video. So August is a great opportunity to get some seeds in so that you can feed yourselves during the winter months and also into next spring. So I've got a variety of seeds here in front of me, so we're going to talk a little bit about those. So it's very important that what you sow this time of year is frost hardy. There's a slight exception which we'll discuss later on, but in general you want to make sure that what you're sowing is going to survive during the colder months and into next spring. So here on this table that I've got some pots of multi-purpose compost. So I'm going to be sowing all of my seeds today into this multi-purpose compost. I like to use little cell trays, okay, because that way you can get more into one little space, and I find that very useful. You can see my seed packets I've got here, so we're just going to have a bit of a discussion about what I'm going to be sowing today. Rhubarb chard, Vulcan. Ford Hook Giant chard. Offanum 2 Flav Spring cabbage. Kale, Red Russian borecole, which I currently have growing here, and I think I've rescued it from an infestation of caterpillars. Lettuce all the year round. Lettuce winter density. Curly kale Westland autumn. Perpetual spinach, which I currently have growing here. And here I have dwarf beans variety Rondo. So I spoke a little bit about plant hardiness. So many of you will be aware that dwarf beans are not frost hardy. So I'm growing these because they can crop in about 8 to 10 weeks, okay? And what I'm probably going to do is actually plant them out here in the polytunnel for the extra warm microclimate it provides. Now there are different varieties of these. You can actually get ones that mature quicker, okay? Now this is actually a later mature one. I'm having a little bit of an experiment with these, but take a look around and you should find one. But yes, I'm going to be sowing these, and all being well I'll be getting dwarf beans in October. So a good thing about germinating seeds at this time of year is generally in the UK and similar climates it's easy because it's still warm. So I'm going to be germinating mine here in the polytunnel. If you don't have a polytunnel or a greenhouse, you can probably germinate them outside on a shelf or something like that. Maybe a little bit of bird protection would be a good idea, so underneath a cloche or something like that, or you could germinate them inside on a windowsill. You generally should not have a problem. So all of my seeds, I'm going to be germinating them in the cell trays. Now you could straight sow them directly into the open ground if you wanted to, or into ground in polytunnel or greenhouse such as this, but I like to germinate my seeds in cell trays because that gives me a bit of extra time to think about where I'm going to plant them, get them going, and then if I decide I want them somewhere else at a later date, I can indeed do that. So this is one of my vegetable beds here. Now these dwarf beans here have finished, so they'll be coming out. They will be giving up some space soon. These runner beans will probably be finished in a month or so, so they will also be giving up space as well. So in this bed I've got a lot of potatoes growing. I've got Desiree and King Edward. There's some other things growing in here as well, some spinach there and some spring onions as well, and also some garlic. So in about a month or so, 6 weeks, many of these potatoes etc. will be finished. So I'm going to take them out, dig them up, store them, and then that will then open up space in this raised bed, which again is one of the best things about getting things going in plugs, because when space becomes occupied you can then move them in, if you will, into space vacated by other vegetables. So I'm going to sow my seeds now into the cell trays. So what I do simply is just cut the corner off of my seed packet, and there's probably a little blister pack in here as well, if you will, and all I do is just proceed to plant them. In fact, there's not a blister pack in here. So what I do is I get a few in my hand, the amount that I want, and as I proceed to drop them, I simply just place them in the compost like this. And I do this, literally with every one. I really don't sort of agonise over every little detail. As long as they're in there, the compost is nice and warm, so the plants will love that. So you can see the seeds in here. They're probably about 1 centimetre, 2 centimetres down, something like that. And then what I do is I get some of my multi-purpose compost like this and simply just get some and place it over the top like this. I often think it's nice to have like everything nicely organised and ready so that you can just do things without it being too much effort. And there we go. Now, this is very important, okay? To me it is anyway, and that's knowing what you're growing, because sometimes one can forget, and if you have success or indeed you don't have success with something, it's nice to have a record of what you did. So there we go. So rhubarb chard Vulcan, and of course these little sticks here, these can be used, these can be kept used year after year if you keep growing the same thing. And all I do is I put my tag in there, therefore I now know what I'm growing here. So I'm going to plant all of these seeds all the same way. So just planted this Ford Hook giant chard, and I'm currently putting my multi-purpose compost on top like this. Now what I like to do is have my things slightly elevated onto platforms like this, because if, like myself, you suffer from a little bit of a lower back pain, it's good to minimise bending, because gardening should be pain-free. There we go, little tag there. Next up, I'm going to be sowing some cabbage seeds, often them 2, and I'm going to plant them in here. Now this is a little trick that I like to use to keep everything in order. So what you do, you have your container like this, look, keep your seeds in. You can just put them there, that way you hopefully avoid spilling seeds all over the place. So when sowing dwarf beans, what you do is you sow them eye up. I hope you can see that. That way it's easier for the plant to surface. Now there is a belief that the beans and the plant will right themselves and grow the right way, which I would imagine would be true, but me being me, I like to give them the best possible chance, and I always plant them eye up. Be quite interesting to see how these dwarf beans do. As I mentioned earlier, they're not hardy, but all being well, I should be able to get them to crop before the first frosts come, particularly here in the southeast. Of course, if you live in part of the UK or indeed a different part of the world where the frosts are earlier and harder, then you may wish to reconsider. But particularly, good microclimates, polytunnels and greenhouses, certainly wise for this sort of thing. So when choosing your dwarf bean varieties to grow this time of year, go for bush varieties if you can, okay, because they come into cropping quicker than the climbing varieties. If you do that, your chances of success will be much higher. So here you go, you can see all my seeds are now set, and I've got them on the table here, and they should hopefully start to germinate within 2 or 3 weeks. I'm going to water them. Now if you can water with rainwater, that is ideal. I understand that's not always possible, so all I'm going to do is just get my watering can like so and just proceed to water them in like that. Now of course, the added benefit of growing them in these cell trays, in container trays if you will, when the plant is a bit more mature, we'll be putting out roots and it'll be able to take water up from the container tray. So that's very good, helps to preserve water and helps keep them moister for longer. So that's a benefit. Now, with regards to watering, I'm probably going to be watering every 3 days or so. I'm going to keep an eye on it. Seeds don't want to be in absolutely sodden compost or soil, and of course they don't want to be in totally dry either. You've got to keep it nice, but just make sure a little bit damp to the touch but not excessive, and it should germinate very well indeed. There you go, some things for you to be getting on with. Now, there's some other things you can also sow at this time of year, and radishes, absolutely brilliant, very quick to mature, great in a salad. Turnips. Carrots here. Now this variety, Paris Market 5, like a little globe carrot, I found these very handy, particularly for those who have heavy clay soil or stony soil to stop misshapen carrots, and they also mature very quickly, so that's very good as well. And you could add beetroot to that list as well. So of course you could grow these all in containers, you could straight sow them into the open ground or into the ground in a polytunnel or greenhouse such as this at this time of year. Very good thing to do as well. Just been having a look at my ginger here. This is it's coming on really nice, little tomato plant. Grown in amongst it. That often happens when you sow seeds, etc. But here we go. So take a look at that ginger. So maybe not too long now before I've got a crop of UK grown ginger to eat. So there we are. Now, with regards to when you sow your seeds in these trays, don't worry if you drop, 2 or 3 extra in each one that you sow. Doesn't matter. You can always remove it and transplant it at a later date. There we are, plenty of things that you can sow during the month of August. So if you like my work, please feel free to like, share, subscribe. Thank you very much for viewing. You can check me out on Dan_Home Gardens on Instagram if indeed you are interested. If you would like to, comment down below as to what you're sowing at this time of year. I always like to see what other people are up to. Very, very interesting. Okay, enjoy whatever it is you're doing. See you next time.